And now, here are your hosts, the Schnitzel Boys.
We here at the Schnitzel Boys have a great advantage where we are German-American boys. We know America, we know English, we know Germany, we know German. So what we're going to do for you guys, just like we did last week with our Bayern München video that did pretty okay, is we're going to do the same thing. We got, very quickly, Oliver Mintzlaff, the Red Bull director, the global director of football, was on Doppelpass, a very famous German soccer review show where a bunch of big-headed experts like a Stefan Effenberg, or in this case, a Mario Basler, Bayern München legend, and German great Rudi Völler was there, a couple of journalists, a Bild and whatnot. Anyway, they all got together, they talked with Oliver Mintzlaff, and they essentially asked him, what's up? So here at the Schnitzel Castle, we would love to play that for you, interpret it, and translate it, and really offer you a definitive answer on why Red Bull Soccer fired Jesse Marsch and what's going on. Bjorn, you want to do the honors? We'll do the first part and then translate.
Herr Mintzlaff, bevor wir die Personalie, die neue besprechen und warum Sie die alte, nämlich Jesse Marsch, weggeschickt haben, ist das auch so ein bisschen hausgemacht?
Was meinen Sie hausgemacht?
Ja, dass ihr quasi die letzte Saison so abgeschlossen habt, viele Personalien verloren, dass es eigentlich in diese Richtung nur gehen konnte in der neuen Saison?
Nein, wir sind ja nicht.
All right, real quick. So the reason it's a little chippy choppy, right? Is that just me? So he's essentially asking. Oh, okay, good. That's just me. I think I'm internet issues. So real quick, the host says, "Hey, welcome Oliver Mintzlaff, welcome to the show. So with the problems you have, don't you feel that's a little bit house made, right?"
Yeah, these.
And then then after an awkward pause, he goes, "What do you mean house made?" And then he's saying, "Well, you know, you guys sold all, you know, what do you say? He said you lost a lot of your key players, you lost your key coach, you've been without a sport." What does he say exactly? Essentially just, because they've also been without a sport director for 8 months. Jesse Marsch was just a head coach. Without a sporting director, which in Germany is very weird.
A lot of the changes that they've made to the personnel kind of, you know, he's insinuating that this slump is not Jesse Marsch's fault, but it's in fact homemade by the fact that they, you know, sold all their players and these other things that you're mentioning.
Mit der Intention reingegangen, dass wir nach dem 14. Spieltag unseren Cheftrainer freistellen oder wir auch gemeinsam mit.
So he's saying he didn't intend to fire his head coach after 14 games.
Diese Saison gegangen, auch mit einem sehr, sehr guten Gefühl, mit einem tollen Kader.
We started the season with a great feeling and a great squad, and we were very optimistic. We said that RB Leipzig, this is one of the best squads that RB Leipzig has ever had. So we went into the season with great conviction. And now we've come to realize that this is not the perfect fit, which is he's saying in English, actually. And then it's part of the business that sometimes you have to realize that there's not a fit and you have to move on. That's kind of this is one of the best.
So it's a lot of corporate speak, right?
Yeah, one of the best squads that RB Leipzig has ever had. I think you could disprove that.
That's what he said, right? That's definitely they were literally cut. It's their squad plus they got Andre Silva and then the revelation of an Nkunku. But no, there's no Timo Werner, there's no Marcel Sabitzer, there's no Uma Campo. What's his name? Uma Macampo. God, for whatever it is, I can't say his name. The great center back.
Yeah.
Upa no Konate. They've lost a lot of their firepower.
Lost a lot of talent.
Der Typ ist gefragt. Die Frage ist, warum konnte es denn Jesse Marsch nicht mehr machen? Weil er war ja selbst in den letzten Spielen gar nicht dabei. Ist ja in Quarantäne gewesen, was ja ein bisschen absurd daherkommt. Ihn deshalb dann zu entlassen.
So Trainer-Typ means type of trainer, right? What type of coach?
Yes.
Like with a type of coach, why couldn't he do it? He's, even the last few weeks he was in quarantine. He wasn't on the sidelines.
Yeah, that's what he's saying. It's a little absurd. It's a little absurd to fire a coach while he's not even coaching when he was when he was quarantined. Yeah, this is some
last three games.
It's fun to see. This is some actual journalism happening. You don't see this much.
No, they're challenging him.
People are really asking some dicey questions. He says,
no, I love it.
So he's saying, all your problems are homemade, and then you're firing the guy when he's on sick leave. What is that? It's absurd.
Yeah, exactly.
Ja, natürlich ist das keine schöne Situation, ne? Aber Covid betrifft uns ja alle in allen Bereichen und wenn jemand infiziert ist, dann kann er logischerweise nicht.
It's not a great situation, but COVID affects us in all areas, and so if he's infected, then he can't be in the sidelines, and that obviously hasn't made it easier, and he can't really influence the team in these important games, and between the two of us, Jesse and us, we came to the realization that he's not the right coach for this team. And his philosophy doesn't quite fit this fantastic squad, this fantastic roster.
What? Bonk, bonk, bonk. That's a big one, isn't it?
I know, that seems... He keeps saying how fantastic the roster is. I don't know.
Yeah. There's more. There's a couple of bombshells. So essentially, it's a little bit of corporate speak. But he's saying great roster. It's just the philosophy didn't fit, and that's such a huge thing because Red Bull invented a philosophy that Jesse Marsch was a student of.
Was part of, yeah. That goes back to Ralf Rangnick, who now is good enough for Man U apparently. Yeah, with Chris Armas.
Chris Armas is good
enough. And well, I guess that's always the case, right? You can't fire your whole squad, so you fire the coach and you just say that your squad is legendary.
Totally.
Spiele zuletzt in der Champions League haben wir aber trotzdem keine Konstanz gehabt und am Ende
there was not enough continuity.
Ja, es ist nicht der richtige Fit.
And in the end, it's not the right fit.
Aber sie passen nicht zusammen.
Aber was hat denn nicht gepasst? Ich meine, ihr habt doch im Vorfeld
so now he's
saying, what didn't fit? Right.
Ahead of time, before the season, you got him because you thought it was a good fit. What happened?
Das ist richtig. Ich habe eben schon gesagt,
yep, that's true. We started with conviction, and he proved in his previous destinations that he can play attractive soccer, Fußball. And we thought that the roster would fit well, but sometimes theory and reality don't go together.
Fakt ist, dass natürlich nach Julian Nagelsmann die Mannschaft sicherlich eine etwas andere Entwicklung genommen hat.
The fact is that post Julian Nagelsmann, the team has kind of taken a different turn than it was under Ralf Rangnick. And we're a little ways away from the classic RB Fußball. And with Jesse, we wanted to kind of come back to our core philosophy, and it didn't really work. And of course, the team, the players also have to be held accountable because they didn't quite, they didn't look like they were 100% invested. And now he's saying you don't have a sporting director and you don't have a coach.
Ja, Herr Brückner, wir müssen mal mit dieser Legendenbildung ein Stück weit aufhören. Also das ist ja nicht so, dass wir keine Sportkompetenz im Club haben. Wir haben
He's being very defensive.
He's being very defensive.
We need to stop judging how we run things. It's not a competency issue.
Legendenbildung. That is hard to translate. This myth.
Legend building. What is myth busting?
Myth. I guess he is saying.
Well, what's the idea? He's saying we need to stop pretending like there's only one way to do this.
He's saying the question sort of is creating a myth, or is perpetuating a narrative of
a misconception.
Of nobody being in charge or them not having competent people, and he's saying that is a myth. That is not the case. Right. We are. Yeah, we are.
We've been running like a well-oiled machine. Just you guys are making this up. The fact that we don't have a sport director wasn't really an issue for us.
It's the press's fault.
It's the press's fault. So again, very defensive, very interesting.
Yeah.
Unterstützung für den Trainer, 40 Personalien und Top-Leute, die tagtäglich natürlich sich mit der Mannschaft, mit dem Trainer und
he's
auch mit
talking about all the people that they do have. They have 40 people on staff that do stuff.
Most of them are chefs, but they're staff.
Schnittstelle ganz eng bildet zum Trainer, so eng wie es ein Sportdirektor in der Regel gar nicht kann, weil die Fachexpertise da möglicherweise gar nicht so groß ist, was wirklich Spielphilosophie
Now we're
angeht.
questioning whether even a sporting director can even work together with a coach necessarily needed.
Eins der besten Transferfenster hingelegt haben. Wie soll das gehen?
He keeps saying
Also
he keeps saying how
ridiculous.
they had one of the how can they have had one of the best transfer windows of all time without a sporting director? How is this? This is
And what does that mean? They sold all their players. Well, how is that a good window if you sell 3 of your players, lose a coach, and then you bring in one other player?
This is a great squad. That is his story, and he's sticking to it.
He said RB Leipzig had their
nach dem Weggang von Markus Krösche gesagt, dass wir diese Lücke jetzt zwar auffangen werden und auch gut aufgefangen haben, aber dass wir sie natürlich schließen und dass wir auch einen Sportdirektor holen. Aber sie kennen uns mittlerweile auch schon einige Zeit. Das ist nicht so, dass wir dann aus der Hüfte schießen und dann.
So they're definitely going to hire a sporting director, but it's not their style to shoot from the hip and just do something quickly.
Verpflichten, nur um einen Sportdirektor
Just to have one.
zu haben, sondern
Wir
haben ein klares Profil, eine klare Vorstellung.
They have a clear profile and a clear picture of the sporting director that they want, and when the time is right, then they're going to get him and he's going to start. This is
auf der einen Seite zu hören, was für eine fantastische Transfersaison wir hingelegt haben.
So it's weird for him to hear on the one hand to be told what a great transfer window they've had, and on the other hand then being criticized for not having a sporting director. It seems like he's the only one who's saying that they had such a great transfer window.
Yeah, he's really fighting through. He only mentioned this once. He's about to mention it again because I've seen the video ahead of time. He leads blame to the players a little bit. That's sort of the little bit of truth of this.
Yeah, he did before. He said that the players also have to be accountable for their.
They're not interested in the philosophy.
Am Sonntagmorgen treffen, dann richtig einsortieren.
Nee, fehlende sportliche Kompetenz meinte ich auch gar nicht. Ich meinte mehr, dass der Posten ja nur auch sinnvoll ist, sonst hättet ihr Krösche ja nicht gehabt und der hat ja einen guten Job gemacht und dass sie es nicht leicht haben im Moment, das kann ich mir gut vorstellen und das kann, glaube ich, auch die Runde sich gut vorstellen. Deshalb gebe ich es jetzt mal in die...
Rudi Völler is looking old.
Yeah, he's had better days.
He's not a young man. So
although he's always had gray hair, by the way.
That's true.
So
that's true. Even in his playing days, he had some gray specks. That's true. So just to translate, the reporter is clarifying that he didn't say that there was that they were all incompetent, but that they used to have a sporting director who did a great job, and so that kind of in itself implies that you need that person because they've had him in the past.
Right. 100%.
And he's also kind of commiserating. He's saying he understands that his job is difficult currently. So he's opening it up for questions to the other people.
Mario, vielleicht du als Erster, die Situation ist ja so gewesen, sie haben einfach Stützen abgeben müssen, das haben sie noch nicht so aufgefangen.
Naja.
So now the reporter is also sort of debunking his theory of the legendary squad. He says, well, they lost some key players and they haven't really replaced them.
Ich mag ja Oliver. Ist ja für mich, was da geleistet hat in Leipzig, muss ich sagen, ist außergewöhnlich.
Wow, Mario Basler. I would not have even recognized him. Amazing.
I know. He aged way worse than Rudi Völler.
Yeah, Rudi Völler looks good compared to him.
Mario Basler of the 99 Champions League final versus Manchester United. He was a key player for Bayern München back in the day.
Yeah, he used to be good. So he's saying how he likes Mintzlaff and he's done a great job in Leipzig. Blah blah blah, but
he's fluffing him up.
He's fluffing him up. A little slump. Now they've had a little slump.
Trotz allem muss man sagen, hat er eine tolle Mannschaft. Was mich ein bisschen überrascht hat, ist, dass der Trainer von sich aus sagt, vielleicht ist er nicht der Richtige. Ist aber auf der anderen Seite, finde ich das gut, dass auch mal ein Trainer erkennt, dass vielleicht in Salzburg anders Fußball gespielt wird, wie vielleicht in der Bundesliga.
So now Mario Basler is insinuating that Jesse Marsch kind of himself said that he was not the right fit. I mean, who knows what happened there? But this is kind of what Mintzlaff was saying, that they kind of came to this conclusion together. And now Mario Basler is doubling down on that by saying, well, he thinks it's great if a coach, can recognize that perhaps Fußball in Salzburg,
change, right.
the Fußball in Salzburg is a little bit different than Fußball in Leipzig.
Dass man auch dem Verein die Möglichkeit gibt, darüber nachzudenken, wenn ein Trainer schon sagt, ich habe ein Problem, vielleicht passt das nicht mit mir und der Mannschaft, vielleicht muss man die Entwicklung erstmal abwarten, 3-4 Spiele.
So if the coach comes to you and says, this may not be a good fit, I have a problem, and you give him like 3-4 games to figure it out, but Basler thinks it's all going to be fine. They're going to find another coach, and the squad is good enough. And he is rooting for them. He thinks it's great what's happening in Leipzig. And he thinks Ralf Hasenhüttl might want to go back into the Bundesliga.
Which I think is funny because that'll be news to Southampton fans.
Southampton,
I don't think they heard that.
They're not going to be into it.
Yeah.
Es ehrt ja den Oliver Mintzlaff, dass jetzt den Bayern nicht den schwarzen Peter zuschiebt und sagt, die sind an allem schuld und an denen lag es. Erstmal kurios, die erste Trainerentlassung in Quarantäne, glaube ich. Also gibt ja immer mal wieder ein Novum. Und
so he's also saying that this is the first time.
Aus Salzburg, dass er ein sehr guter Motivator ist.
First time that somebody got fired while in quarantine.
Wenn man sich Leipzig am Freitag in Berlin angeschaut hat bei Union, das war ja erschreckend. Also das muss ja 4-1, 5-1 ausgehen und nicht nur 2-1.
So he's saying how Jesse had the reputation of being a great motivator, but just from the ideas and creativity was just lacking for Leipzig this season.
And that's a sports reporter for Sportbild.
Yeah, Sportbild.
Which is a big sports paper in Germany.
Expectations are high for Leipzig, and now they're sort of back. They have a reality check. They have a reality check, and they're up against Bayern Munich, who likes to deplete the competition by buying their best players. And what was the problem? Hold on, I'm sorry, I missed one thing. Oh, he's saying that Jesse Marsch had trouble establishing a hierarchy, a pecking order in this team. And so they say now, he was saying that the whole RB organization has to realize that they can't just kind of draw these things up in theory and hope that they will work in reality. This is a reality check for the organization.
So there was a part of the video, maybe I edited it out accidentally, where essentially Jesse Marsch approached Oliver Mintzlaff 3 match days ago, like on November 7th. Like a month ago.
He was saying that. Okay.
Did he say that? And he said,
well,
Jesse Marsch said that my philosophy isn't clicking with these players. Right when Jesse Marsch was hired, Regular Bild, put an article saying the players were rejecting his playing style. Because essentially what happened was Julian Nagelsmann came in, changed it, made him a little more defensive, a little more possession-based, essentially changed the style. And then what happened was he went to Bayern, took his players with him, and then RB just hired an old-school RB coach in Jesse Marsch to just bring the old ways back, but the players weren't buying into it. That was kind of what's going on. The other thing is, like I said, there's been a few criticisms. That last journalist said it right. Another criticism of Jesse Marsch was that he never had a starting 11. He rotated too much.
Right.
He turned his whole roster, but that was Jesse Marsch's idea. That was part of the philosophy. The philosophy is to have everybody chip in and be a big sort of happy family. So, but the criticism against RB is like, you should have known that ahead of time. Like hire a coach that's more like Nagelsmann then, or something. You know what I mean? Like,
well, I guess that's sort of the undertone of this whole talk, that it's like, that philosophy the team is the star and everybody, you know, like there's the philosophy is the most important and everybody has to buy in, you know, may work in a lower profile club like Salzburg, but in the, you know, when you're dealing with Bundesliga players, there's some egos and there's some management that is necessary in a different way, perhaps.
So, but what I will say is they're not really blaming Marsch. They're like committing to Marsch is a good RB coach. So like Marsch is a good high press coach. Maybe not perfect. Like I said, they criticize the fact he couldn't come up with a pecking order, you know, but Marsch openly tried this. Like it wasn't like he just didn't want to do it that way. Whether that works or not, I guess we just saw. But like the criticism isn't really against Marsch, it's against the organization. And I went on the Red Bull fan forums, and it seems like that's their sentiments as well. They're really curious about how the organization's going about making these decisions, not necessarily Marsch himself. So that's a good sign if you're a U.S. fan, you know.
Well, it's anyway, also, it's also for Leipzig, you know, it's an important... It's an unexpected. They've had this meteoric rise over a few seasons from really nothing to Champions League, and you know, this can't continue forever. So now they have to. It's a reckoning, and we'll see what happens.
So the Jesse Marsch reign ends after I think 4 or 5 months.
So let's hear it one last time.
Oh well, I'm sure we're going to hear it a few more times, but let's hear it. Let's hear it for the boys, just this one last time.
Jetzt ist es ich gegen ihn oder euch oder egal. It's us against them.
Us against them.
Ich gegen euch oder wir, aber egal.
Yeah, aber egal.
Doesn't matter.
Jetzt ist es ich gegen
now it's
ihn oder euch oder
me,
egal.
I against him, or we, or us against the. It's egal. It doesn't matter.
Whatever. He's being passionate.
It's the Schnitzel Boys. It's the Schnitzel Boys.